Welcome to Make Your Money Matter with Brad Barrett, the show that aims to change the way you think about wealth management. Brad is a financial advisor, established radio host, and author of Retire Right. He is a managing director and partner at One Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm managing over $4 billion for clients across the nation. Brad and his team are dedicated to helping clients protect and preserve their assets so they can reach their investment and retirement goals. And now, your host of Make Your Money Matter, Brad Barrett.
Welcome to Make Your Money Matter. I'm your host, Brad Barrett. I'm also a managing director and partner here at One Capital Management. And today on the show, we're going to talk about how financial freedom, financial independence, financial security, we're going to talk about all three of those, really comes down to and is all about cash flow. Now, you may think accumulation or investing is the most important part of the game. And don't get me wrong, it is important, but income is primary. Income is like water. You cannot live without it. So we're going to focus on that today. But before we get started, make sure to go to our website at onecapital.com. You can click on our media tab, and there you can download and subscribe to the podcast. You can also download the podcast on any other platform, whether that's Google Podcast, the iTunes app on your phone, SoundCloud, or Spotify. Do me a favor, leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. It's always good to hear feedback. I want to start out this week with a question. It's kind of a hypothetical, kind of an out there question, but follow along here. If the things you thought were true were actually wrong, when would you want to know? Let me give you an example. When I was a kid, I remember vividly, I don't remember the exact context necessarily, but I remember this vision of my parents somehow in a conversation in our car, probably on a trip to Lake Havasu or one of the trips we were doing in our summer vacations. They had said to me this, that drinking and driving was against the law. Now, for many years after that, whenever I saw someone in a car drinking like a Coca-Cola, I assumed they were criminals. Now, it was years later, obviously as I got older, I figured out that what my parents were actually talking about was drinking alcohol when driving. Now, I share that because obviously today I can laugh at the absurdity of this, but I think it's the perfect example, for me at least, of my life, of how easy it can be for all of us to carry around what I'll call half-truths, right? Especially when you don't know what you don't know. And I think many people, we go through life believing things without ever even considering the possibility that those things are actually wrong. And I think many of you listening or watching right now, you can very easily assume a lot of examples in your life of that statement. And I see it every day here as a financial advisor, conversations that I have with people, especially around the misinterpretation of financial terms, happens all the time, the misapplication of various wealth strategies, and ultimately confusion about how much risk. I think that's the big thing nowadays, in particular when it comes to asset allocation or investments. But I think ultimately how much risk they're actually taking. Now, my question I want to kind of go further here is, why does this happen? So I think the internet has a lot to do with this. Here's what I mean, right? The internet, I think, gives everyone instant access to unlimited amounts of information. We all know this. I think daily we can all either Google search something that we need to find out, and we have to understand and disseminate what is true and what is not. Now, unfortunately, there is rarely any context, and we have a tendency, I think all of us do as human beings, to process information as one of two things, either true or false. And again, this is just based on the source that we are looking at and a basic understanding of whatever topic it is that you're looking at. Now, if Google says it, for example, then obviously it must be true. I think a lot of us don't want to actually admit that, but subconsciously we're believing that. And I think it's important that we talk about this, okay? Now, as a result, people end up, I think a lot of us do, with a false sense of confidence and maybe even a huge list of beliefs that aren't necessarily true. And here's what I want to share today as we talk about how income is so important and sometimes the redheaded stepchild, if you will, of investing or retirement discussions or things of that nature. Now, here's what I want to share. Misconception can cause costly consequences. Put it this way. Your financial future rests on your understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And the consequences, friends, are real. Any misinterpretations you may have about money or an investment or investing in general or retirement or specifics around your retirement plan could potentially destroy, right, your quality of life and ultimately reduce your chances of maybe experiencing true financial freedom. Put it this way, money in general is like water. If you don't tell it where to go, it will just go anywhere. We need to, using my analogy, dam off water. We need to dam off our investing. We need to tell it where to go. We need to have income buckets. We need to have savings buckets. We need to have investing buckets. Yes, those are different. This is really important. I think the biggest obstacle to, let's say, unlearning something you've always thought was true is to accept, I think all of us, the possibility of having inaccurate information. And once you do that, unlearning bad financial information is not as complicated as you may think. Again, think about it. You can survive without any money accumulated, but you cannot easily get by without cash flow. Again, I want to go back to the theme for this week's show. Cash flow in general can be generated in any number of ways. Maybe a paycheck from your job. This is for those that are not retired yet, right? Potentially a business you might own, or a passive income source, or a second income, let's just say it that way. But regardless of where it comes from, cash flow, again, is like water. You simply cannot survive without it. And I want to take a quick path on the same route here and talk about another question here I want to pose for this week. How do you know if your money is fulfilling its primary purpose? So money is obviously a big part of our lives. Okay, let's just be honest. So we have a tendency to what? To desire more of it. If it's that big of a part of our life, wouldn't we want to accumulate more, invest more, save more, so on and so forth? But how do you decide how much is enough? Obviously, for many of you who listen to me every week, we talk about this concept a lot throughout, a month's worth of podcasting. But what I find in general, as I like to share every week when I'm seeing with clients and prospective clients and just out there in the community, what I find is that most people often use arbitrary account balances and rates of return to assess how much progress they have made. But here's the thing, guys, neither of those things actually indicates whether your money is fulfilling its primary purpose, which is income replacement, also known as cash flow. So again, while having money is of course part of the equation here, it is the wrong measurement for success. That's what I want to share here. A lot of people with plenty of money still struggle with not feeling financially free or confident, and that is a problem. So here's a couple things. Achieving financial confidence starts, I think, with answering these two main questions. How much income do you have coming in right now that you don't have to work to receive? Now, by the way, I'm talking about actual dollars being deposited into your checking account or brokerage account. This is passive income. Now, the second question I'd bring up is, if you quit working tomorrow, how much money would you need to cover all of your expenses? By the way, this includes taxes, trips, lifestyle expenses, etc. Now, if you listen to those two questions, and if you're like most people, there is typically a gap between how much income you're receiving and how much you need. By the way, this is why you work, to fill that gap. This is why you invest. This is why you save. If you want to stop working at some point, becoming financially free, retirement, whatever you want to call it or label it, you'll need to figure out how to close this gap with cash flow, with other income.
Stay connected. Get frequent updates on the show. Follow Brad Barrett and Make Your Money Matter on most social media platforms. And catch full episodes of Make Your Money Matter streaming now on our YouTube channel. To schedule your no-obligation appointment, go to onecapital.com or call 805-410-5454.
And quickly, I want to share something is, the difference between financial security versus financial freedom. How do you do that? The idea of financial security, if you think about it, cannot necessarily be defined by exact numbers or percentages and is often expressed as emotion, right? It's a feeling of safety. By the way, this is why most people focus on reducing debt and accumulating money. They believe that spending less, paying less in interest, and earning more on investments is what will lead them to a successful retirement. Having large sums of money brings a sense of financial security as well, but it does not create financial freedom. If you're like most people, right, knowing creates more confidence than assuming. Wouldn't you agree? And a good way to know is to complete a financial plan, a wealth forecast, something we do for our clients here at One Capital Management. Every single client we have, we like to walk them through what we call our black book. This is understanding your distribution rate, your withdrawal rate. Ultimately, it helps you answer the question of sustainability, right? Will I always have enough money, Brad, in retirement? Do I have enough money now to retire? This helps answers those questions. So again, security versus freedom has to do with numbers versus an emotion. Now, security versus independence versus freedom is another thing, right? We speak often with people every week who have, let's say, a bunch of zeros saved up in the bank, but don't feel financially free. Very different, right? They say things like, I think I'll be okay, or I feel okay with what I have, but their word choices, right? I want to focus on that, right? I think, I feel. They say it all to me as an advisor of nearly 2 decades. They're not confident. In short, if you think about it, if you have large sums of money, but you're still working to support your income needs, worried about market returns, or maybe uncertain about the future, to me, that's not freedom, right? We have to really focus on this. There's a middle ground here where you have both financial security and lifestyle flexibility in the short term, which I tend to refer sometimes as, again, financial independence. You notice it's different than freedom or security. Let me give you an example. For some of my business owners who I work with and have clients on, they have companies or real estate that create their revenue stream, their own revenue stream. And their business runs without their full attention sometimes, allowing them flexibility to do what they want when they want. But they still need to contribute at some level in order to maintain their income sources. Now, for many out there, this is labeled as passive income. So rental properties are a great example of this, or a perfect example, in fact, of great cash flow machines that generate income to potentially support your lifestyle and help you achieve financial independence. It is obviously a good thing to have, different types of assets growing and producing income, but it still takes time and effort. Another example I want to share, just to be clear, is not everyone has to have real estate in their portfolio. You can build passive income through value investing, right? Through dividends. Those are also income that's being paid to you for not doing anything necessarily other than the risk you're taking on when investing. So if you think about it, whether it's dividends coming in from investing, maybe it's rental income if you're a landlord, you may have a pretty great life looking at it, collecting rent or dividends, rent from your tenants or dividends from your investments, but the simple fact that you must collect it is work, right? Not to mention addressing repairs, upkeep on the rental side, managing expenses, dealing with unhappy tenants, so on and so forth. So again, nothing wrong with running a business or having rental income to provide cash flow. And for some people, their business is their passion. So again, it's a passion project or a purpose-filled environment. But it's difficult, I think, to achieve really true freedom or financial freedom when the business income or passive income from rentals relies upon you showing up. Social Security is another example of that. You did the work. These are all things that don't get labeled as passive income, but they're built up because you put in the work to receive it. This is why many people have, I think, the notion of income coming in as a part of their retirement or financial free category, okay? So obviously we can go back and forth and argue the definitions of financial security versus independence versus freedom, but I think ultimately we've been missing the point. I think income in general or cash flow is the path to financial freedom. And I think failing to understand the difference, again, comes with a cost. If the point is to have enough income to cover your cash flow needs, why would you spend 30 plus years measuring your progress based on account balances and rates of return? Friends, I might have struck a chord there for many of you, because for most of your life, you've been marketed to and told that you have to understand your balances and look at rates of return. Again, those are important, but you're missing the boat if you don't fully understand that income in general, cash flow in general, is what retirement or being financially free is all about. And I think ultimately, as you can see, words matter. Definitions are important. What we tell ourselves matters. And these are conflicting ideas, right? Because why so many people think that they are on the path toward achieving freedom, but never seem to reach it, right? If you think about it. So they fall short of the goal because they don't truly understand what is needed to have financial freedom and are steadfast, I think, on accumulating assets, and they're stuck in the accumulation phase. To have financial freedom, let me just put a bow on this way. To have financial freedom, you have to have income. You have to have cash flow, whether that's passive, whether that's income coming from dividends or rental properties or pensions or social securities. Income is literally like first base, if you will, of a baseball game related to retirement. Before you get to second base, before you get to third base, before you start talking about grand slams and home runs, first base is where you start. Cash flow is where you start. And if you have to have income, then focus on building reliable income sources. Friends, it's that simple. And so anytime you do a wealth forecast, you're meeting with an advisor, anyone who doesn't start with questions about your income currently, obviously your debt and the delta between income versus outflow, ultimately then talking about retirement assets, whether it's pension or Social Security, or maybe, again, passive income, starting there, especially with a wealth forecast, matters. So again, the theme for today I wanted to share as I was thinking over this last weekend, reading some articles and going through some of my own notes for doing this as long as I have, I want to almost go back to first base here and just say that understanding how your income, both while you're working and in retirement, plays into your financial future is how you answer the question and really the emotion around becoming financially sustainable, becoming financially free, or becoming financially independent. Hey, I want to thank you for listening to the Make Your Money Matter show. And remember, before acting on anything discussed today, speak with a financial advisor near you about your specific situation. Or again, if you'd like our help, you can reach us at onecapital.com or give us a call at 805-410-5454. And until next week, always remember to make your money matter.
The information in this show is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration a listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a final decision.